Hello there. I'm going to be honest with you. I was prepared to scrap this whole idea of making a video on my laminectomy surgery because my intentions were to do a day by day like video journal to give people an idea of what happens because I could find very little information out there. And so as I was about to throw in the towel and say I kind of missed the boat because it's day 13 post-surgery for me, I was just going to scrap the whole idea and forget about it. But I realized that perhaps the reason why people don't have very positive videos out there on YouTube are because they just get the surgery, go on with life, and kind of just put it behind them. And I'm almost at that point now. My staples aren't out, but I'm ready to roll. Like, I feel great, and I'm ready to move on with life. So just as I was getting ready to scrap the idea, I decided maybe instead of doing a day-by-day journal, I'm just going to do a kind of a, as fast as I can, it's probably going to take me a little bit of time to get to, as fast as I can, a recap through the situation that led me to a laminectomy of L2, 3, 4, and 5. So, first of all, my YouTube channel is usually for plant-based kind of topics. I'll try to get some pictures uploaded here, but it wasn't about 8 or 9 or 10 years ago. I weighed well over 400 pounds, was almost immobile, and so since then I've stumbled onto a plant-based lifestyle, lost a bunch of weight, have had amazing transformations in every aspect of my life, including beating addiction and alcoholism and addiction to food. So I had this like couch life where I wasn't very mobile, and then I finally got kind of athletic and started living a very active life. And then probably, I don't know, over a year ago, I started getting some symptoms, which I thought were just like sciatic pain. After a long workout, I get, some little discomfort in like the back of my leg, kind of up towards my butt cheek, and some stretching, some ice, a couple Advils or something would kind of take it away. But recently, I say recently, probably about 8 or 9 months ago, the pain started getting worse and it started turning into kind of a tightness. And I don't want to waste a whole lot of time of explaining, how it progressed, but it progressed actually pretty quickly to the point where I was getting some numbness in my feet and in my calf. And I don't, the doctor said it's a very gradual thing. Well, I didn't feel it was very gradual for me. I stood up one day after I got out of bed. I kind of stretched my hands up and I couldn't feel my legs, and it literally freaked me out. I was super scared. So I don't usually do this, but I went to the doctor. I wanted to find out what was going on, which, long story short, led me to a CAT scan, which turned into an MRI, which turned into multiple MRIs. And so what happened is I have spinal stenosis. It's pretty severe, and it was really compressing my spine, and there was no stretching, no decompression, no chiropractor. None of these things were working. In fact, I would submit that they definitely aggravated it, especially the decompression table. I knew that I couldn't just stretch out. I jumped up on a chin-up bar and kind of hung real loose to kind of stretch my spine out to get rid of some of that tightness. And when I dropped down and my feet hit the ground, I had I was so weak and I couldn't feel anything. But at the same time, I was getting this like burning pains in my legs. That's when I knew I wasn't going to be able to stretch myself out of this one. As it progressed, I feel like the external things were super bad. Walking more than 10 minutes was like torture. I got to the point where my legs started dragging. I couldn't get my toe up onto a floor mat. Like, we have these throw rugs, and I'd look at the throw rug and I'd stop. I'd have to really concentrate to actually lift my foot up onto the mat. Getting upstairs, I just had so much weakness, so much pain, and these unreal like electric shocks running through. And then sometimes it felt like stuff was crawling under my skin. It's so weird. But what happened is internally, I feel like that was actually more painful. I would just a simple clearing my throat, I would get these wicked shooting pains around my pelvis. And I didn't know this till after surgery, but even taking a deep breath, I was breathing very shallowly because just opening up my lungs put so much pressure on there. It hurt so bad. So I was dealing with pain. I'm somewhat of an athlete, so I know how to push through pain. This was definitely not the kind of pain that you can push through. I could get comfortable when I laid down on my back, but other than that, that was about it. Everything hurt, and so I get these weird like spasms in my leg, just really weird, painful. It's so weird because you tell people that you're numb, but at the same time, you're dealing with massive amounts of pain. So I don't know how you can be numb and it's painful at the same time, but it really is. It's a pain it's very hard to describe. It's almost like there's short circuits all over your legs. And I had a lot of pain around my pelvis area too. So anyways, I was freaked out when I went to a spine surgeon, and he said that I needed a laminectomy, but he said my back was strong and it was fairly straight. So he was going to just try to do a laminectomy without fusion. And so I wanted to do the minimal possible, but I wanted relief at the same time. So, of course, I think I do what most people do. I go online and I start reading about all these people with laminectomies, and I was mortified by some of these people, being laid up for years and not going back to work, and I was freaked out. So I shouldn't have done this. I joined a bunch of Facebook groups, and of course, just like how I started this video, many people that have a successful surgery and move on, they're not going to do something like this where they document it. It's just like when you read a bad review from a restaurant. Most of the time people will eat, enjoy the food, leave, and never do a review. So it's kind of a bias when you look at reviews. So again, that's why I'm doing this. It was a wonderful experience for me, and I just want to share it super fast. And again, I was going to chunk this up into small videos, but I figure if you're here this long, then you're probably lined up for a surgery or the possibility of one as well. So let's go through this as fast as I possibly can. So we had a surgery date. I had a little bit of kind of setbacks with the insurance company. They didn't want to pay because I tried to go to therapy, but I couldn't do any therapy. I literally couldn't move. It hurt so bad to move. I did try a chiropractor. I feel like I was worse every time I walked out of there. But somehow the insurance company didn't think I did enough. So after the doctor showed the MRIs, I eventually got clearance, which slowed me up about 3 months. But 13 days ago, I went in for the surgery. I was so nervous. I cannot tell you how nervous I was. I don't like doctors. I don't like hospitals. I just like to eat my plants and move my body and feel great about life. But I needed help. So I go in, and the doctor explained to me that there's kind of like these little cages around your vertebra that hold your, that protect your spinal canal. And there had been so much arthritis and buildup in there and some bony spurs that they weren't letting my spinal canal have any room. It was just crunching it off. At one point, my spine, I believe, was under 6 millimeters, and it's supposed to be over 25 to 30 millimeters. So it was really crunch. And I'm gonna try to edit this and throw a picture up so you can see what the MRI. It almost looked like my spine was severed, which it wasn't, but that's what the MRI looked like. So I have 3 or 4 herniated discs. And the goal was to do the laminectomy, remove the bone, so the canal can kind of rest on the outside of those herniations. And the reason for the doctor's decision to do this is he finds that a lot of times when he shaves that disc down or does a discectomy, that many times the disc will re-herniate, leaving you with less material between your vertebra. So he suggested leave the herniations alone and let's just get rid of the bone. And I was totally into that because I wanted this as minimally invasive as possible. So surgery came around. I was a nervous wreck. That was probably the worst part about the whole thing, is the build up to it. I went in, and by the way, let me just put this disclaimer out there. I'm not saying that this is going to happen to everyone. I have a little bit of a special circumstance, and so definitely don't take medical advice from me. I'm kind of a little bit of a rebel, a little bit rebellious. But so in any event, I went in the morning, got prepped for surgery, and I informed the nurse that I would be going home that night. And she said, "Oh, you are not going home. You'll be here 2 nights, one if you're lucky." And so I said, "Nope, I've already talked to the doctor about this." She said that if I was getting a single level laminectomy, that it could be outpatient, but not with 4 levels. So I'm like, okay, I kind of resigned to the fact that I was going to have an overnight stay. Went down where I met the team, great team, and I informed the anesthesiologist that I would not be having opiates before, during, or after my surgery. This kind of threw things into a little bit of a tailspin, but it quickly got corrected, and the anesthesiologist said, you know, he wasn't worried about me not doing opioids before, because I would obviously be asleep, but he said, you know, after you wake up and recover, he goes, you're going to be in a fair amount of pain because it's a very traumatic surgery. And so I stuck to my guns, and I said I used to have a very bad addiction to fentanyl and other opioids. So we did the whole thing opioid free, and from start to finish, I never had to take any pain medicine other than a few Tylenol here and there. Now again, I have a very high threshold for pain, and I'm very determined to never take another opioid. So each experience is going to be different. I'm just sharing my personal one. I don't think the pain was bad at all going through it. Anyways, the surgery took a couple hours for sure, and I ended up in the recovery room. And as I was waking up, the room was starting to spin. The first thing I did, it must have been the last thing that I thought of. I looked down at my toes and gave them a wiggle. And once I could wiggle my toes, I'm like, this is great. Because I wasn't paralyzed, and I was super worried about not being able to move my feet again. So once we got that under control, I was super, super excited. And then I went on, as the rooms kind of slowed down a little bit. You know, I flexed my calf, and I didn't feel any tingles in there. I flexed my quad, and I didn't feel anything crazy. So I was pretty happy that everything worked. And so about 2 hours later, they rolled me up to where I started the whole thing. And that same nurse was there, and she said, "Wow, you're going home." She goes, "That's a first." She goes, "No one goes home with 4 levels of a laminectomy." But I was ready. I was ready to go. The surgery didn't start until 11, and it was only about 5, not even. I think it was like 4 o'clock, and I was getting ready to get picked up. So again, that's not normal because someone else had the same surgery as me, and they were in the hospital for 2 days. So that's I really credit a lot of this having to do with not taking opioids. It didn't constipate me. I wasn't real tired and groggy. I knew what was going on. So anyways, I had to pee super bad. So I asked the nurse if I could get up to pee, and she goes, "Let me just get you a urinal." And I'm like, "No, I think I can get up." So I pivoted up off of the bed, and I used the IV pole. And I started walking down the hallway to the bathrooms. And I got about halfway down, which just happened to be right next to the nurse's station. And I lost it. I just started crying. And the nurse, like, she kind of panicked, and she goes, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I was like, I can't believe I can feel my legs. Like, it felt like literally someone like rebooted my legs and turned the power back on. It was so amazing. And it was so amazing that I kind of forgotten all about that I had surgery. So I went into the restroom, and went to the bathroom, and then came back, and I didn't want to lay back down. I just wanted to sit for a while, and we got my clothes on. And about an hour later, my wife was picking me up. So I didn't have to stay over at all. I actually wasn't in the hospital that long. So that was super encouraging. The restrictions actually, they were kind of vague, and I kind of like that. I kind of like that I could just kind of do my own thing. They weren't too many. Prescription wise, they sent me home with a prescription for Tylenol, which it was pretty low dose Tylenol actually. And then I did have a muscle relaxer. I forgot the name of it. But I didn't think I would actually take, and then I had an antibiotic. So I left with 3 prescriptions. And I obviously would take the antibiotic all the way through. I think I have tomorrow, and I'm done with those. The muscle relaxer, I did not think I was going to have to take, but I'll tell you why I ended up starting to take them in a minute here. But in any event, I came home. I was very careful, very purposeful. Of course, we had snow in our driveway, so that it kind of freaked me out. They did give me a brace. So I had a back brace on that has these 2 like kind of cables that you pull up, and it really crunches you in. And the car ride home wasn't too bad. In fact, the car ride home was good enough that I actually stopped at Starbucks and got a coffee, which I was dying for. I came in. We have about 2 stairs to get up in the house. It took me a little while to get up them, but I'll tell you what, I got up those stairs a lot better than the day before, pre-surgery. And so kind of had something to eat. And my wife said, we sleep upstairs. My wife is like, do you want to just sleep on the couch? And I'm like, no, I'm going to go upstairs. So hours after surgery, I was able to walk up a flight of stairs. And I walked up better up the flight of stairs than I had done even 2 days before surgery. I was almost crawling up the stairs like a bear crawl because I just couldn't stand up straight. Probably one of the biggest things I knew at this point was I was taking full breaths again. I think subconsciously I was breathing really shallow because I knew every time I took a really deep breath, I would just get tremendous shocks and nerve pain, especially around my pelvis area. So I noticed that, and I noticed I cleared my throat, and I didn't get lit up from that either. So those were 2 super encouraging things. And I could just tell I had reached a point where I would like move my head, and I could feel that in my legs. So I was pretty compressed, but yet all that went away. I had no numbness, no tingling. It was unbelievable. It was literally like a miracle. Okay, so bedtime that night, oddly enough, I couldn't sleep, and I don't think it had so much to do with pain. I couldn't fall asleep. Hard to get comfortable. Probably the hardest thing for me was to go from the sitting position down to laying. You can kind of get used to that. I would use my elbow for like a kickstand, and then kind of sprawl it out. I have a very strong upper body, so I know that helped a lot. And so that wasn't too bad. The problem I had was scooching my butt back. So when I'd sit on the edge of the bed, that one step to get my butt back far enough so I could lay down, that was the hardest, and that would end up being probably the hardest thing for me to figure out how to do. And it just took a couple days before the pain was gone. But basically, if you slide your butt, like you push up with your hands, you're putting pressure on the surgery. And then when you slide, you kind of roll your tailbone on. Then it hurt really bad. So then it became kind of like a rocking motion, and that hurt too. I felt like I was stuck. I couldn't get my butt back. That was probably the most challenging part about this whole thing. But once I was able to get back, because our bed is kind of high, once I was able to get back, then I was able to pivot down on the bed, and that worked well. The first night I slept mostly on my side. I came down, and believe it or not, that morning I went for a walk. I went for almost a half-mile walk. The day, not even 24 hours after surgery, which was super encouraging. My wife said that I actually walked better than she has seen in a long time. So I finished a little under half a mile. I felt great. Day 2, I did sleep a little bit better, but I still did not sleep through the night. Is very uncomfortable. Going to the toilet. I eat plant-based, so I eat a lot of fiber, which sends me to the bathroom a lot. Going to the bathroom, like sitting down on the toilet, the first day was rough. The second day wasn't as rough. By the third day, it was pretty decent. So this is kind of gross, but if you're here, you might be getting the surgery. The hardest, one of the most painful things for me, they must have put a catheter in, because for about 3 days, it burned so bad every time I peed. But that went away, like I say, and it wasn't bad for 3 days. It was really bad the first day, got a little better second day. By the third day, it had left that stinging and burning sensation. So really, by day 3, the only thing I couldn't do, if I dropped something, I couldn't pick it up, but I had little gripper things, that I basically just used to open and close a toilet lid. But I got around pretty good. My wife had to kind of help me get dressed for the first 3 or maybe 4 days. And then I just kept getting more range of motion and stronger. Now, it still was surgery, right? It's still like, it looks like they put a bottom plow up my back. I'll try to show you a picture of that. I have 24 stitches. And the incision is probably over 9 inches long. So that it's a fair incision. But I'll tell you what, I would do this every day for a month to get rid of the pain that it got taken away. It was 100% worth it. So I think a lot of this, honestly, is your perception of what's going to happen. You know you're getting surgery. You know they're going, I think they go in 3 inches into your spine and clean all that. It's going to hurt. It's understandable. You're not going to escape this pain-free. But relatively speaking, I don't think it was a terrible thing to have done. I feel great today. The only complaint I have is the staples are really itching. They come out in about 4 days. But it was overall way easier than I thought. It's way worth it. Now, as I'm sitting here right now, I'm on day 12. My left foot is a little bit numb. But it's nothing like it was. There's no pain. I just feel a little numbness, and the doctor said that's actually quite normal. In fact, oh my goodness, it had to be a week later, I had nothing. I had no residual pain. I had no sensations coming back, and they had kind of warned me that some would come back as I heal and stuff kind of shifts around. That said, the one thing that I did not expect, and this is so gross, but if you're staying with me this long, that means you're probably getting ready for the surgery. The drainage. Oh my gosh. I did not expect this drainage or the amount of it. So day 1, not bad. Day 2, I don't know if I told you, but I got up and I took another walk. And day 2, I went to bed and I actually slept okay. And I got up in the morning. Mornings aren't good. Mornings are the worst because you gotta stretch out. And so I got in the shower, and I think, I had a whole bunch of hot water running down my back, and my wife was going to help change my bandage. So she was kind of pulling around on that. And then before I came downstairs, I took that brace and I really gave it a big hug. And I got about halfway down the stairs, and I felt the whole back of my legs getting soaked wet. And I'm like, what is going on? So I went to the downstairs bathroom and kind of dropped my pants, and I was like, it was massive. It was kind of scary. My wife started freaking out, but I was bleeding profusely, just dripping. Not even dripping, it was running. It was running on the floor. So my wife's first intention was to call 911, but I said, let's just take it easy, breathe. I had done a little bit of research, and I've heard of these pockets things. So apparently what happened is, while they're sewing you back up, there's obviously a lot of bleeding and stuff still going back on that they can't vacuum out. And so they stitch it all in there, and it makes this pocket, or like kind of like a water balloon. And two things have to happen. Either one, your body absorbs that all, or two, it finds the easiest way out of you. Well, in my case, it found the easiest way out of me was a hole in the bottom staple, and it was just like a faucet. And so once that started, that got really annoying. So what I did is we let it drain. I actually sat right on the toilet and let it drain for a while. And then when I was ready, we put this kind of like a few towels down on the couch to make like a hill. And then I laid down on my back right on the incision. I put that bump in the towels, and I set my phone for 2 hours, and I did not move for 2 hours. And after 2 hours, it slowed way down, but it drained every single, for a while, every hour, we were having to change stuff out. It was pretty bad. Yeah, so that was really gross. That lasted for well over a week. I just stopped probably 3 days ago. It stopped draining. So that was very unexpected. But that said, every single day I felt like I got stronger. I could sit for longer. I could do more things. I could be more independent. And I'm good to go. I would say that I could be totally independent probably 5 days after surgery, where I wouldn't have needed help at all. Now, again, I'm coming from a bit of a fitness background, and although I've been sidelined for quite a while, I do have a very strong core, very strong legs, very strong upper body. Although my left leg was getting so much atrophy because the nerves weren't firing the muscles. But overall, it's been a great experience. And I know this sounds so cliche. The only thing I would have changed is I wish I would have done it sooner. Some of that was my fault. Some of that wasn't my fault. This is not the type of thing that you push through. There's a lot of things in life that we need to push through. Life is going to hand us pain sometimes. And there's things that we got to just suck it up and grin and bear it and push through it. This, in my experience, was not something I could push through. I couldn't even lift my leg up. I literally was dragging. It looked like I had a stroke. That's the way I was walking. But that said, as bad as I was, that's how good I was when I woke up. So I would encourage you, I'm not trying to give medical advice, but I would encourage you that if you can get rid of some of this pain, the pain is excruciating. It's almost unexplainable. And I've dealt with a lot of pain in my life. I've never dealt with anything quite like this. So I hope that helps people. I kind of hijacked my own YouTube channel because I usually talk about plant-based living, but I'm not very active on YouTube. But surely if you leave a comment, I will be glad to respond if I can. And I hope someone gets something out of this. I really was going to just leave it go. And I thought, well, if there's someone like me that spent 18 hours searching testimonies and all of them scared me. There was a few people that that had very good results. But for the most part, they're failed back surgeries and all that kind of thing. And it scared me like crazy. So there you go. That's it. And this got a little bit longer than I wanted to. Maybe I'll split it up into two pieces. So I hope that helps. And best of luck if you're going to get the laminectomy. Be prepared. There's going to be some discomfort. But it's very temporary. It's very fast. So peace out.